Okay, I know some of you have been waiting a long time for an Actionscript 3 version of kind of an old tutorial I did back in the Actionscript 2 days, which is called the just classic gaming. It was just a side-scrolling tutorial. But yes, now it's about time to get a bit fancier with it and use Actionscript 3, and I'll show you guys real fast, or as fast as I can, what goes on in this thing. So I'm the little more purple ninja here, and you know, if I hold down the up key, I can jump. Left and right makes me run, obviously. And then if I hold down the down key, I can slice up other ninjas over here. And of course, if they collide with me, they'll just start attacking me like so. And I've got a health meter up this way. And they kind of come down at random speeds, so you might notice that some of them move a bit faster. And the fun thing here is it's incredibly easy to make up plenty of different boards here, because this is just pretty much it's all one piece of vector artwork here, where I just you know, just made the angles in here curves, and then I just kind of went through and I just deselected some of the artwork and just hit delete, and so that's where you're getting the gaps in there. And then it's just masking this same kind of checkered pattern here to give it kind of more of an old 8-bit look. And if there is an objective to the game, it's to, I guess, for every level, we'll just keep getting out to the flag over here, so you can just run out onto this guy, and then once you do, it'll reset you back over here. And what else is there to know? Well, let's see. Let me try to do one or two things. See if I can get out. Oops. Well, I wanted to try to get out into that circle there, but I think it's a good good little engine, I guess, for making plenty of different games. And we will, of course, show you guys how to add all sorts of different things to it, different types of enemies. We are going to be doing some object-oriented programming here. So we've got a class for our enemy, a class for our player, a class that extends both of these guys, or our boundary objects here. So basically any number of different enemies you want to create and things like that, they're all going to be extended from this. And so yeah, lots of, I guess, reusable code and trying to do things as least hacky as possible, which is not always what I'm known for. But we'll go over that. And, you know, real quick before we get started, I just want to show you guys how quickly you can throw in some different artwork. So this is actually a lot of artwork from the Actionscript 2 version of this tutorial that I sold many years ago. And I will just copy this in, and let me go back over here to our FLA file. And what I'm going to do is double click inside of what we have here. And if you did want to kind of examine this a little bit further, here's the this is the mask that's just making up the entire level, and then that's obviously masking this thing. But what we'll do is step back one, and I'm going to delete out this entire guy right here. Well, it's hard to see it, but this flag is still off to the side here. And then what I'll do is I'll just paste in the artwork that I copied. So here it is. And what I don't want to do is, here we go, kind of make it back down the bottom of the board. Okay, so there's no code on any of these objects in here. It is just vector artwork. So let's publish it out again, and here we go. Now we've got our guy just in a whole new set of different artwork. And yeah, again, no coding needed. Just draw something new in there, and he'll fall off the edge, obviously. Go fight these ninja guys. Okay, so that is what we're going to be working on. And let me undo this so I get back to the original boundary. And I sure hope you follow along with this lesson, because it's going to be a good one. What I'm probably going to do is, or definitely do, I'll divide this up into two separate parts. One, we're going to make the basic framework for it, and then from there, what we'll have is a pretty decent game for just basically moving your ninja around, and different controls for the desktop, or using an Android device that has an accelerometer. In that version of the game, you don't use any sort of keys for moving left or right. You just slide, and then that's where this jump button comes in, because there's no real up key. And then by the end of that lesson, the first part, I don't think we're going to have any enemies. So our second part will deal more with incorporating those guys and stuff like that. So that's where we're headed. Okay, so this is going to be the official part 1 of this tutorial. Part 0 here was the intro, so you guys kind of know what's ahead, and you know that we'll actually be working on some side-scrolling. But what I want to do is introduce some of you to object-oriented programming with a little bit of a quicker example, I think, and definitely a simpler one, which is going to be to bring out a timer from the library. And this could be a timer class that you could use for many different games, and that's kind of the point of object-oriented programming, that you want to create reusable artwork, and a timer is something that would appear in many different various games. So what I will do is have open this side scroller file, which is the file that we're going to be working on throughout the entire course with actual side scrolling. And then what I want to do is show you guys in a separate folder here an example of kind of how oftentimes I'd typically code a game which is not using object-oriented programming, and I have somewhat of a problem with that. I'm kind of hooked on just lots of different ActionScript files that aren't class files, like this one. This isn't a class file, it's just a separate ActionScript file, and just kind of hacking together the game as quick as possible and not worrying about reusing the code for other projects, which there's nothing wrong with it, and for certain games that's definitely fine. You might not want to get overly complicated, but what we'll do is open this file up, and I'm going to show you guys that all you really have in here is just some text, and of course there's black background right here. So this is a dynamic text box, and of course you can make a dynamic text box at any time by just clicking out here with the text tool and making sure that's set to dynamic, and you can give it an instance name like my box, and with code you can assign values, or assign text to your text box like that, or you can just have it be the static text, which just means you can type in here like this, the words time left, or just static text. I don't need to change that with code. So the only thing to really note here is that we have this dynamic text box that says min box over here, or minute box, and then this one for the second box. And right now, none of this artwork is put together inside of a single movie clip. Okay, I could do that. All right, I could convert it to a symbol, so I've got this, one piece of artwork that I can move around, stuff like that. But for this example, we're just going to leave everything on stage right here. Okay, so code-wise, I can just write minbox dot whatever, and to change the text inside of there. And we don't have to worry about kind of referring to these objects inside of another movie clip. But what we do have going on in our main project file is, and I'll show this to you, inside of the library here, we've got all these elements together inside of one movie clip. Okay, and what's ultimately going to happen is dynamically through code, our timer right here is going to pop itself out of the library. It's going to place itself on stage, and all the same code that we're pretty much all the same code that we're writing inside of here is going to be inside of here. Now this is going to be its own separate class though, so it's kind of like its own little entity, and it's got that code packaged up inside of there. But again, let's real quick just kind of go through some of the code that makes this work without it being a class. Then we can look at the similarities. So I've got an include statement right over here, and I know this is kind of hard to see, but well, no, that makes it even worse. All right, well, select this frame, and you can hit F9, or you can click this little button, Actions, over here, or you can even find your actions over this way, and it just says include timercode.as. Okay, so that's .as for an ActionScript file, and it's referring to this separate ActionScript file right here. Okay, and again, this is not packaged up code. This is just essentially no different than if I cut and pasted all the same code, and then just, instead of the include statement, put it all right here on the timeline. Okay, writing a separate ActionScript file though is convenient, because maybe in another project I was like, oh, what, I want to go find that time code. I don't feel like opening up the FLA. I just want to grab it out of this ActionScript file, because this is essentially just a text document. Okay, so that's one nice thing about it. Another thing, it's just kind of, you don't have to be putting code on your timeline like that. Once you've got that include statement in there, it's inside this file. And the same thing is is definitely nicely true about writing class files and things like that. Just be aware that right now this is not a class file. It's essentially like code that was written on the timeline. And when we refer to our min box, okay, that's the instance name of this guy right here. It's going to have no trouble finding what it's talking about. It's going, yep, I know exactly where to look, just on the main timeline minute box. And I'm going to run through this code real fast. We're importing in here just the functionality that Flash needs to work with timers, timer events, and movie clips. Okay, so you don't have to worry about that. I'll make sure you guys have all those import statements in there that you'll need for your files. But what we are setting up here is a variable for our current minute and our current second. And actually, I should set this to something more like 1 and 0, 0. Actually, let's go with 3. So at least when we publish this file, it won't be 2, anything other than that. So at least you can kind of see that it's working. And these are just integers. Okay, so they're just going to tick down, go through the seconds, go through the minutes. And then this is a variable called 1 second timer. All right, it's a timer type. We're saying this is going to be a new timer. And that's 1,000 for 1,000 milliseconds. Okay, so 1 second. And then what it's doing is it's just firing off once for us. Okay, I could set this to immediately run through 10 times, but what we're going to end up doing is just fire it the one time and then restart it. So it's going to go again, and then it's going to count down like that. And then I've got another variable in here called timer has stopped. This is a Boolean type, so there's only 2 type values for this, true or false. I don't actually need both semicolons there. And you can imagine that timer has stopped is either going to equal true for when we've counted all the way down, or it's going to equal false for when we still need to keep counting down. And then these are kind of obvious. The minute box is just going to equal the string value, or just basically the value of whatever current minute is, current second. And then I've got this one if statement here that says, okay, if our current second is less than 10, we want to just put in this extra leading 0 in front of the seconds, because that's how clocks look. All right. Otherwise, it wouldn't show us the double 0, or it wouldn't show us the 0 at all. And then we are putting in here an event listener that just says, okay, when that timer gets done, when it completes, all right, we're going to run this function right here, okay, which is this function. All right, so this code, all this code inside of this one function, okay, all the way down to right here, is not going to run on its own. We have to specifically call that, and it gets called when the timer gets done. So after 1 second, and that's what we're listening out for, it's going to complete, it's going to go do that. And just because we set up our timer up here doesn't immediately mean that it's going to start on its own. So that's what we're calling right here. We're just saying, oops, we're saying, okay, your 1 second timer, go ahead and start, and then it'll go through and eventually get to this, and it's going to basically establish a lot of the same things that we've already written up here. Okay, change how that text box looks. So now it's the new current minute. In fact, those probably should be after all this. Well, it doesn't matter. So where are we looking right here? Okay, this is that same code that we had above, just the leading 0. All right, here we go. Current second is going to equal itself minus 1. Okay, so that's going to lessen our seconds. And then basically it's saying if it ever equals less than or negative 1, then we want to switch our current second to being 59. So what this can get down to is 0, and then it's going to go back. Then it's going to go to 59. And if that ever happens, we also want to take away 1 minute. Okay, so current minute equals itself minus 1, and you could also write that same code like this, but this is just kind of shorthand. Minus equals, it's the same thing. And then finally, if our current minute were to ever equal negative 1 or less than that, just throwing that in there, it shouldn't ever get down to anything other than that. We're going to say our timer has stopped, and then this is optional right here to reset the timer. This is just a separate function that I wrote down here at the bottom that would reset our timer, but we're going to leave it out. And then so if it ever equals 0, or negative 1, I should say, do this, else, all right, just restart that timer again, okay? And that will, if we were to publish this file, and go over here to control, test movie, test, there's a hotkey for that, so if you ever see me just immediately pop up a Swift like that, it is going to, it means I published it. So there we go. It's going to go through into its time. In fact, if we want to test out the restart on it, because we will use that eventually. Let's go and make this be 0, make this be 5 seconds, oops, or just 5. If I could hit the 5 key, there we go. And then I will uncomment out this function right here. So reset timer, there's that function, reset timer. And then after 5 seconds, it should start things back over at 2 minutes. There's one little problem. This reset function doesn't have the this part of it right here. Okay, so paste that in, and we'll just test it one more time. Make sure we do see that deleting 0, and not that it matters too much because, well, there we go. Good to go. Okay, that does it for our on-stage timer. Now, let's figure out how we're going to convert this into a nice little packaged up class. All right, I'm going to go back over here to our side scroller file, and I'm going to find our main timer in the library. And I can find this guy pretty easy because it's got this linkage name right here, so I don't have to mess with even looking on this left-hand column. I'm just going to go find it. But what I will do is click the little eye icon down there. And you can actually also find this by just right-clicking and going to properties, which is also getting cut off. But what I'm going to do is unclick this export for Actionscript. Okay, just hit OK real fast, just to show you guys how you could do this on your own. So again, go back over here to your properties and click on export for Actionscript. If you want, you can give it the same class name as it appears in here. Typically, though, what you do is start things off with capital letters, and we'll call that main timer. Click on OK, and you will probably get this message at this point, and it says a definition for this class cannot be found in the class path, so one will be generated in the Swift upon export. Okay, that's fine. What we're going to do is make our own Actionscript file that's going to be the class for it. So we will go over here to new, and let's create a Actionscript 3 class file. That's fine. Class name, we can name this main timer. Click on OK, and let's now save this out. Oops, I have no idea where that just saved that to. Looks like it did actually save to the right place. Okay, well, that's fine. Now, though, if we were to go back over here, just kind of prove this concept that, once again, if I were to do the same thing, okay, take that off, click OK. Then come back over this way and go export for Actionscript and change this to main timer. Okay. Hey, look at that. I didn't get that error message because now it's saying, I found the class for this guy. It exists, and it's going to just be looking in the same folder that our side scroller is saved at. And of course, that is right over here. So that's why our Actionscript files are going to end up getting saved inside of here. And you could put them in separate folders, but let's just go for leaving them all in the same place for right now. And let's focus in on our main timer class file. For better or worse right now, the code that we throw in here is coming along with that movie clip. All right, they are one. They're packaged up together. Okay, kind of hence the name package right here. So if we were to drag this out of the library ourselves and put it on stage, we're getting this code along with it, all right? And we actually are close to being able to test that would be the case, okay? And to do that, we could write in here something like a trace statement, which is just going to give us a little message to the output window that says, I exist, okay? We can't publish this just yet, but the only reason we can't is because we need to specify that this class extends itself from a movie clip, okay? Because that's what that is in the library there. Okay, so we're going to say that you've got all the same properties of just your standard movie clip, and then it's also going to want us to put in here that import flash.display movie clip. Oops. And pretty much all the classes I think we're writing today extend from a movie clip. Okay, I mean, if you programmed in Flash before, you know that's a lot of times what's going on. You're just He's got lots of different movie clips on stage, and they are interacting. So check this out. We actually do have this ready to go, I believe. So go back over here, save it up one more time, and then I'm going to publish the file out. I'm not getting any errors. That's always a good sign. Now, of course, we don't have any of that code imported into our main timer, so we're not seeing that take down, of course. But if I were to close out of this and then take a look at the output window over here, which is abnormally long, we did get that trace statement in there. It said, okay, I exist. All right. Another thing you could do then is say, I'm going to put this out here over here to the middle, and then, oops, there we go. As soon as it appears, we can say this dot x equals 0 and this dot y equals, make this maybe 20. All right. So then publish this up again. And hey, sure enough, it has moved itself all the way over there to that side of the screen. And we could write, make this a little bit more sense. If we put it at 60 and say 50, and sure enough, there we go. It's a good position for it. So obviously what we'll want to do is have that timer start ticking away when it appears on stage or when the game begins, basically. So let's figure out the code that we're going to take from inside of this file and where we are going to put it inside of our class file, which is hopefully something that many of you are going to end up facing, if you want to convert your games or some of your current games to be more object-oriented, programmed. Well, we know we can take these guys, our import statements in here, since we're going to be using the timer. All right, throw that guy inside of this part. And now it's about time for me to explain that this public function right here is always going to be named the same as our class name right here, and also the same name as our Actionscript file. And it's going to fire off right away. It's you could almost think of it like the equivalent of, that first frame on on the timeline. Actually, the first frame on this timeline, that's just got all that code. Okay, it's just going to fire off right away. Okay, and inside of, or I should say outside of this part, and typically above it, right up here, we're going to set our initial variables. Okay, and if you've kind of worked with, or if you've kind of looked at some of the object-oriented programming before, you know that there's such things as private variables and public variables, and we'll get into the many differences between those later on. But let's go ahead and just take our current variables here, paste them on in, okay, and let's go ahead and clean things up a little bit by clicking this button, and we will make these private variables. Okay, so only this class can have access to these variables. All right, and I guess the simplest way of explaining that is just saying that nobody else can touch these variables. Nobody can change them. Okay, only the code inside of my own class here can go and say that actually current minute should be something different. It should start off at 2. Okay, and this should start off at 50. All right. But obviously we're just setting their initial values right here. And again, this is also going to be a private variable, this 1 second timer. Okay. I am, though, going to make our timer has stopped variable public. Okay. And that way, another class, like our main document class that we haven't yet actually created, can look into this class and just check to see if the timer has stopped, if it equals true or false. Okay, so now let's switch back over to the code that we wrote before, and I believe what we're going to all take is this big chunk right here. Okay, and again, let's try to clean things up because it makes it pretty ugly when it pastes in. And instead of saying I exist here, let's say our timer is timing. I don't know, just something that indicates it's actually our timer that we're talking about. Okay, so here's the question. Is it going to know what our min box is? Well, yeah, it is. It's going to know exactly what that is. Okay, because remember, all this code has been kind of packaged up with that movie clip this guy right here, okay? So it does realize that when we write min box, it's talking about this minute box right here, okay? So you're kind of, your relativity for this code is that, you know, say we had just double clicked inside of here, all right? So we don't have to worry about writing anything in front of min box, like, I mean, we could actually put this, but we don't have to write like its instance name on stage, okay? And that's how we got away with writing this as well, just this.x, okay? It was saying, hey, you know what, just this whole thing right here, move it over this way, all right? So again, this is it's going to set the current minute to whatever we set right here. Maybe it should be 1, just so we can test this out in a second and see that it has actually done that. And then we've got our timer complete function inside of here. What I want to do is, let's get rid of this just for a second. Let's get rid of this one as well. And let's just try to publish out at this point. So I'll save one more time. And sure enough, it's got that 1 in there. So that's a great sign that things are working so far. Okay, so uncomment this, and let me fold this up a little bit so we get a bit more room. And let's go back over here to the code that we had before, and let's copy out this entire function right here. So our onTimer complete function, come back over this way. And of course, this is always where it gets confusing with these packages and public classes and all this stuff, because you got to figure out, oh, where exactly does one bracket end and the other start? So let's put one little comment in here that just says ends main timer. Okay, so I'm just repeating back the function name right there, and then we can just say ends public class, and then ends our package. Okay, so we want to put this right after that. Okay, again, let's try to clean things up a little bit. And this function right here is, we can make this one a private function. Okay, so again, only this class can call this function. All right, so another class, or our main class, you know, even if it tried to write, you know, my timer dot on timer complete, it's not gonna be able to access it. Okay. I think we have everything right in here. Actually, again, what we should do is move that up this way, because that was kind of our problem before, wasn't it? That I should have been doing the subtractions on this, and then at the end of it, putting down what all those things equaled. Okay. Well, if I did reorder those wrong, we'll figure it out in a little bit. Again, let's just put a little note in here that says ends, and then on timer complete. And let's see where we're at now. Go ahead and publish. Oh, call to possible, yeah. We haven't yet put that reset timer in there, so let's go ahead and comment that out. And let's see where we're at. Okay, ticking on downward. All right, that's a great sign. Now let's have some fun with this. Go over to our main file, and let's get rid of this guy. Okay, so we're going to pull out the timer dynamically from the library, all right, at runtime. And what we also want to do is set up a main class file for just our FLA here. All right, so we'll call this document main. All right. Again, it's saying, hey, you know what? You got a little problem here. I can't find this guy. Well, that's okay. We'll just click on OK. And let's go over here and say new Actionscript 3 class file. We'll call this, document main. And let's save this. You guessed it. Right with everything else. Okay, if that wasn't that obvious. So here it is, right by our main timer. And then let's cut back over into here and make the necessary changes. Similar to what we did before, we are going to just extend this from a movie clip. Okay, extends movie clip. All right, and let's go ahead and throw in a bunch of the same import statements that we had over here. All right, and in fact, you know, it's kind of neat. We can also import in our main timer as well. Oops, if I could spell that right. And you know what, with my testing, I've noticed that I can get rid of this, that it doesn't really matter, but let's just go ahead and leave it in there. What it might be doing is it might be looking in that file and being, at least editor-wise, being like, oh, well, I recognize some of this stuff. Let's go ahead and use it for auto-filling in things. I'll show that to you in just a little bit too. But again, it's not going to hurt us to import that in. And now let's do this. Let's go and just put a little trace statement in here. It says trace document main initiated. Okay, and again, this is similar to if we had code just written on the main timeline now of our main document. All right, and hopefully it'll run. Let's find out. Okay, close it out, and sure enough, great sign, document main initiated. All right, so what we'll do up here is, or actually within here, set up our initial variables, and we'll put a little note here that just says initial variables. Okay, and let's set up our timer. Let's make this a private variable, okay, private var, because really nobody needs access to this this timer other than ourselves, okay, and we're right up at the main root of this our project anyway, and we will call this our game timer, okay, and it is of type main timer, okay, and if you've programmed in the past, you might have made movie clips dynamically and written things like game timer equals, or something equals whatever, player colon movie clip equals a new movie clip, and so on like that, with their parentheses. Okay, well, this is similar, but again, we've created a type for this, a class for this. Okay, so this is a main timer. All right, there we go, and it's a new main timer. And what we're going to throw in here is something inside these parentheses, like a minute and second to choose from, okay, or to begin with. And let's go ahead and set those up. Just going to come up this way, oops, and we will write private var. This will be a minute. This is going to be an integer type. This will equal 1. And hey, wait, this is kind of interesting. We're actually using those same variables over this way, aren't we? So we could use the same exact names. It's not going to matter. We're actually basically going to kind of overwrite them. I might as well just keep these ones a little bit more literal by just writing second and minute inside of there. And now we are going to pass in the value of this, okay, to right here, and then the value of that, obviously, to right there. And what our main timer function needs to do here, okay, this one, is expect those to come in, because if we were to publish right now, it's going to have a problem with that. All right, it's going to go, what are you talking about? Why are you giving me parameters to look at inside of these parentheses? Because essentially that's what's going to happen. Okay, we're going to take what's inside of here, and it's going to go do this little time warp. You know, I kind of think of it like that passage in the Clue board game where you go from one end of the board to the other. Okay, it's taking this stuff and it's going to dump it back out inside of here, where we're going to use it inside of this function. So we just need to basically tell it that you should expect something to come in here. So what we're going to do is write starting min, okay, and we just need to specify that it's going to be an integer type. Okay, so if we try to pass in something that's not an integer, it's going to have a problem with it. And then starting second, okay, this is also going to be an integer. All right, and now what we'll do is get rid of these values. Okay, get rid of this value, and then we'll say, you know, let me get rid of this for right now. We're going to say current minute is going to equal the starting minute that we passed in there. Okay. And you guessed it, current second is going to also equal our starting second. Okay, so at no point or nowhere in our class file here are we, actually wait, let me see if that's correct. Oh, I don't have the reset timer in there anyway. Okay, so at no point inside of here are we hard coding in any sort of starting minute to use, okay? And that's kind of the beauty of this, is now when we're back over here and we're creating our game timer, we get to determine at runtime, or in our main document here, the minute and second to throw in. All right, so basically we've set up this variable, we've set up the, the timer, it's a variable. It's ready to go, we just haven't actually put it on stage. So we should do that right here. And the code for this is going to be, I don't know why I'm looking at my notes right here, I know that, add child. This will be game timer, all right. And then we'll establish inside of here where to actually put this guy, which makes a bit more sense because if, let's say you were using the same timer in many different games, you might have different locations for where you actually want that game timer to be at. You might even want it to look a bit differently too, but that's where you could get into, essentially having your timer be even using dynamic properties for things like the font and all that, but we're not going to go that crazy. Okay, so where are we? Back over at document main, adding our child game timer, and I think we should be good to go. Let's see what happens. And there we go. It's popped itself out of the library. It's put itself on stage, and it is just going to tick on downward. So, obviously now, if I'm playing around, testing our game later on, and I don't want to show you guys a minute's worth of game time, I just want to show you guys a 5 seconds worth, I can just go up into here, change those numbers, and you can see it starts ticking down from the 0 to 5. Okay, what other cool things can we do here? Well, we can do this just to show you guys. We can get rid of this part here, okay, and just finish that off. And instead of establishing the values when we initiate the file here with our initial variables, we could wait on that, and to do that, we would just come down here, we could just paste out the same part and then just write game timer is going to equal exactly what we had before. So you're kind of just chopping this in half in essence, and we're going to actually we'll end up doing that with our the players that we create and the enemies, I think. Yeah. And the reason for doing that is, maybe you didn't want to hard code in these values here at this point, and instead say something like if level equals 5, then minute equals minute times 5 if you want to give people more time per level. So that way you're just just changing things before you actually get the timer on stage. So hopefully that makes sense. And let me just publish that to make sure I was correct about that. Okay, sure enough, that is working. Okay, one last thing, and then we can go and actually work on some side scrolling. And since this is turning out to be quite a bit of tutorial in itself, we'll cut over into a new movie to work with, to view. So yeah, real fast. Let's go ahead and set in our reset timer. So I'm going to copy out everything right here. I'm going to go back into our main timer. I'm going to paste this all right here. Let's call this public function. You know what? Sometimes I get this, even though I know it's not right. Let's see. You don't like what I'm doing, huh? Oh. No? That's not it either. Let me try pasting all that same exact code right up here above this one. See? Weird, right? Just out of curiosity, I'd like to just put it down here and see what it does. See? I was right. I don't know, just some weird formatting thing. Okay. Now, here's the thing. Why did I set this one to be public and, for example, this one was private before? Okay. Well, I just know that no other, nothing outside of this class is going to be listening for the timer to be complete. Okay. But we might want to reset this timer from another class like our side scroller, which we'll be listening out for many different things, but one of them would be to see if our timer has actually completed here. And if it does, we can reset this guy to whatever we want, really. I mean, and that too could depend on the level. So let's also use some parameters to pass in here. So just that same starting minute, same starting second. Let's go and put those inside of this function, okay? So when we call this function, no matter where we're at, whether it's from this class or from our side scroller up here, our parent class, we will need to pass in those values. And again, we will make current minute equal the starting minute. So come back down this way one more time. And that will also make sure that our timer has stopped, goes back to being false. Okay, so it is running again. And then we will actually restart that timer. So that should be good to go. Let's go back over here to our document main, and what we'll do is set up a listener inside of here that will listen out for whether or not the timer has counted down all the way. And to do that, let's just write this dot add event. Ugh, something's being slow. Something's being very slow. And something just crashed. Random crashes sure aren't funny for me, but it might be kind of fun to watch on the video. So let's try this one more time. I'm going to write this dot add event listener, and this is going to be event dot enter frame event, and let's call this main game loop. So this guy is going to be running at the same frame rate as the movie. Okay, so 30 frames per second, which is a lot of code getting run very fast, but the speed plays back plays back pretty well. And inside of here, we're going to put in a bunch of different functions that, again, are just going to kind of constantly be looping through here. All right, and we're going to write private function enter. Oh, I'm sorry, actually. I'm changing the name of these functions from my notes. Main game loop, and this is we could put in here event, and then just event. The main thing to note here is that this guy matches up with that guy, and then we're actually not going to be returning anything for this, so we just write void, and then went ahead and just pasted that guy down there. If we want to, we could always write end main game loop, that little right there. Okay, now let's see. What we'll do is write if. Well, no, you know, let me put. I'm gonna put a couple functions in here right now. There's gonna be many things that possibly reset the game, so I'm gonna put create another function called game reset. Okay, and then I'm gonna write down below here private function game resets. Okay. And one of them we'll look out for will be if game timer dot timer has stopped. And look at this. The editor has gone in here and examined one of our public properties for this game timer. That timer has stopped Boolean. So this is nice. It's showing us what type of class it is right here, the main timer, and it's showing us that it is this Boolean type variable. So immediately we know a lot about this. We can say, oh, cool. And we can also just hit return on it. Timer has stopped equals, if it equals true, okay, so that means the countdown clock has run its course. Then we can well, what we're going to eventually do is have a whole other function here that says reset board, because again, there's going to be lots of different things that make this happen. But let's see, should we go ahead and write that function right now? If we do, I should probably, yeah, we might as well. Okay, let's keep writing functions. I mean, this is game programming. You have lots of different things that do the same thing. Okay, reset board. This is going to be void. Oops. Come down here. Okay, now there's going to be many, many different things inside of here, but one of them will be game timer dot reset. And look at this. As soon as I start to write reset in here, it's showing me that, hey, you know what? You're about to call a function that wants 2 parameters to be passed into it. That's starting minute and that's starting second. So let's go ahead and click right here. And look, it's even hinting out for that way. So again, let's this time we'll start the minute at 0 again, and then put in here 15. Okay, so similar to what we had before when we initially created it, but this time we're hard coding in some sort of value. But you know, this could be second times level, you know, some variables inside of that. Okay, and then yeah, let's go ahead and test that out. I just want to look at this reset timer real fast. Okay. Well, one thing to note, even before we test this, is say I had this set to private, okay, instead of public, we wouldn't be able to access it from up here, okay, so that would not be possible. Okay, so it's counting down, and hopefully when it comes back around, it should start me back off at having 15 seconds there. Okay, and you did actually see that kind of weird flash there, which is, I don't know why. I'll have to go and look at the, I probably just need to reverse around some of what's going on in timer complete. Yeah, who knows. But great thing is that we've got our own separate timer class now, and this guy could be used for all sorts of different games. And now we can stop talking about timers and actually talk about side-scrolling. Oh, and by the way, the one little issue there was on your on-timer complete, just throw in current minute equals 0 and current second equals 0, right where I'm pointing, and that'll keep that little flash from showing you the pass time on the reset. Okay.